nature of our very being is to be in harmony. Welcome, friends, to the Center for Spiritual Living Boulder Valley Mystic Moments. I'm Reverend Jody Hill Stevenson, the senior minister here, and I thank you for joining us. Boy, there is nothing I love more than talking about the wisdom of the mystics. And last month, we've been talking a lot about universal love. You know, no one has said it better. Oh, well, there's a lot of people who say a lot of wonderful things about universal love, but I think the leader of Buddhism, the great Dalai Lama, once wrote, "If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion." Love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. I love that. This is not a luxury to be kind and loving and compassionate to others. Without them, humanity cannot survive. He goes on to say, our prime purpose in life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. And in fact, love and compassion are often the primary subjects of all the great sages through all the ages of time. The great Taoist teacher 2,500 years ago, Lao Tzu, once wrote, "Compassionate toward yourself, you reconcile all beings in the world." Listen to that. Compassionate with yourself, you reconcile all other beings in the world. Love and compassion start with self. Compassion literally means to suffer together. Among emotional researchers, it is defined as the feeling that arises when you are confronted with another suffering and feel motivated to relieve that suffering. That doesn't mean we need to take on people's feelings, but it does mean that we can say to them, how can I love and support you? I recognize, I see you, I hear you, I feel you, you're struggling. The opposite of love and compassionate are kind of jolting, really jolting to the heart. The lack of love and compassion causes callousness, cold-heartedness, hard-heartedness, heartlessness, judgment, celebration of someone's or an organization's struggle. People who love calamity in their life, the thrill of the drama, trauma, and chaos, are the ones that say, did you hear about so-and-so? They're having a big problem. Or that organization, did you hear about, in a callous kind of way, in a judgmental kind of way. That does not exude love and compassion. I have come to believe that compassion is one of the divine's greatest gifts that she gave to us, those of us who are human beings. And while cynics, and there are plenty out there, may dismiss compassion and love as that touchy feeling, irrational stuff, there's no thinking around being compassionate. Scientists have they've actually started to map the biological feelings, the biological truths, what literally happens in our biological being when someone exudes love and compassion, suggesting that indeed it does have a deep evolutionary purpose. This research shows that when we feel compassion, our heart rate slows down, we secrete the bonding hormone oxytocin, and the regions of the brain that are linked to empathy. There's literally a region in our brain that when we are compassionate and loving, it shifts. And research also shows that caregiving and feelings of pleasure light up, which often results in our wanting to approach and to care for each other. As human beings, we all have the potential to be happy. We all have the potential to be compassionate people. And we also have the potential to be miserable and harmful to others. It truly is our choice. The potential for all of these things is present within each of us. We choose how we're going to show up. I learned in the womb how to judge others. And since I've been in the ministry 35 years ago, and actually started my recovery in the 12-step program, I started to really not like that part of me. And so I had to give her a new job. And the new job that I give her, even today, it's not as prevalent as it was, but still I can flip into it really fast, judging others. My technique is to say, oh my God, there I am again. I'm doing it again. And I say, everywhere I look, I see the face of God. It's my technique. I offer it to you. It works. So a young cab driver arrived at an address and honked the horn. And nobody came. So he honked it again. And finally he got out, went up the stairs, went to the door and kind of pounded on the door with an irritation. And he heard on the other side of the door a frail voice that said, just a minute, I'll be right out, just a minute. And the door opens and there's a frail elderly woman with a little pink suitcase, dragging it across the floor, opening the door, and he looks at her. After a long pause, she said, thank you so much. Can you take my suitcase down and then come back and help me down the stairs? And she was so dressed up in her glory. She was wearing a printed pink dress and she had a pillbox hat on and she had gloves. She looked like a movie star out of the 40s. So he takes her suitcase, takes it downstairs, and he comes back up and he helps her down the stairs. He looked into her apartment and all the furniture was covered. There was nothing on the wall. There were no clocks, no pictures, no knickknacks, no utensils, nothing. It was an empty space. And in the corner was a cardboard filled with photos and glassware. So he takes her suitcase and together they walk down the stairs. As she took his arm, she said, oh, thank you so much for helping me. And she asked if it was okay if she sat in the front seat. He said, yes, that's fine. The address that she gave him, he knew where it was. And he was beginning to feel a bit chagrined. He knew where the address was, but he didn't know what it was. You're such a good boy, she said. Here's the address. I need to go. But before we go there, can we just drive around town a little bit? And he thought, well, it's not the direct route. I want to save you some money. I mean, it's okay, but it's going to cost you. She said, oh, I don't mind. You see, I'm in no hurry. And the address that I gave you is the hospice center. I don't have any family left. And my family doctor said that I don't have much time left. The young cab driver reached over and shut off his meter. What route would you like me to take you on? He asked. For the next 2 hours, they drove around the city and she showed him her middle school where she got her first kiss, Eddie, out in the playground. And then they drove to the building where she had once worked as an elevator operator. And they paused for a long time in front of the church where she and George got married 64 years ago. They sat there for a long time in silence. And then they sat in the car in front of the house that she and George had built together. They never had children, she explained, but they were animal rescuers. I look forward to seeing all my four-leggeds that have gone before me, and I'm going to soon see George. I'm so happy about that. And he very quietly said, yes, yes. At the first hint of dusk, she turned to him and said, I'm tired now. I'd like to go to the address I gave you. They drove in silence. And when they drove up to the low building, like a small convalescent home, they drove into the portico driveway. And immediately 2 nurses came out. They obviously had been waiting for her. And they were very solicitous, and they were very honoring of her. They must have been expecting her. So she pulls out her purse and she says, oh, you have been so wonderful today. What do I owe you? And he said, oh, I'm not going to charge you. I had the best day with you, and I just want you to know my life has changed forever. She said, but you need to make a living. And he went, you have just given me the key to living a love-filled, compassionate life. There's no price for that. It's priceless. So she gave him, and he gave her a great big hug, and they held each other for a long time. She was sitting in the wheelchair, and the nurses turned her around, and as she was wheeled into the home, she turned around and he looked at her, and he knew that he was saying goodbye, but that his life was changed forever. He knew, because of his love and his compassion, that his life was richer, more peaceful, more joyful, and changed forever. So this week, when you find yourself judging another person, and I do say when because we all do it, as soon as you notice that you're going to judge someone or that you're in the middle of a judgment, say to yourself, everywhere I look, I see the face of God. If you're talking negatively about someone, again, we all do it, stop in the middle of the sentence and I'm not going to finish that sentence. Trust me, I've done that a lot. I am not going to finish that sentence. People go, what? Especially like, oh, what happened to... I am not going to finish that statement. So take a deep breath, pause, and look around and say, everywhere I look, I see the face of God. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley. Please go in and push the donate button and donate. And in fact, look up and see our wonderful classes that are coming up and that are in place. There's lots of opportunities for you to connect and be a part of our spiritual community. Everywhere I look, I see the face of God, and I look at you and I see the beautiful face of the divine. Love lives here. Have a great week, everyone.